Alright guys, so here is the sleep system we're gonna use for tonight. We got this, it's a bare butt hammock, and I got the straps that came with it. And then for the inside, we have the thermarest, and this is an insulated pad. Plus I got a wool blend blanket, and that is gonna be pretty much my entire sleep system, along with this chill gorilla tarp. Tonight, right now it's raining because it's around 40 degrees out. Temperatures are probably going to dip into the 20s to the low 30s. So we'll see how this holds up. Alright guys, so now let's go over what I got in my pack. So as you saw earlier, this is the Scandinavian Gear backpack. So now on the top side of my pack, I brought extra batteries and a battery charger for my phone just in case. Got my fire kit in here. Now in here I got a pocket bellow, I got some matches, I do have a ferro rod just in case. And in my main pack, I did bring a synthetic mid-layer jacket from Montbell, and I'm going to go into why I brought synthetics. I have a Tokes titanium pot, and inside the pot I brought a gas canister, and oh boy, we got some goodies in this bag. It's big, but I got some food in here. On my live stream I did have a questionnaire to see which food items I should bring, and with your guys' vote it did help me decide what to bring tonight. About 1.5 liters of water. I am not near any source of water besides the snow. If I have to, I'll gather some of the snow and melt it. But right now, when I looked around, all the snow seems to be pretty dirty. There's like yellow stuff everywhere and stuff like that. So I'm relying on this 1.5 liters of water. But snow is my second resort as far as water source goes. I did bring bear spray just in case. And during my live feed, I did ask you guys if I were to bring a saw to process wood, just in case, if you guys wanted to see like a small processed wood or a big one, and you guys chose the big one, so I brought my Silky Big Boy saw. And potentially to chop wood, I did bring my SE6. That's about it. That's all I brought on this trip, and we'll see if I can make it through the night. Also, I forgot to include, I did bring a log of firewood. I know that's kind of ridiculous to some, but I did bring this just in case I couldn't find any piece of wood, and I just wanted to have like a small one if I can process just this little piece. And that's because I just like campfire, and this was doable. It wasn't too much of a issue to carry this out here, so we'll see if I can at least process this if I can't find any other wood around here. And just taking a quick glimpse, there aren't that many dead trees around that I can find, so we'll see what I can do with that. And I did bring a headlamp for tonight. So now let's go over the food that I brought. This pouch, I did have like a brunch meal before I came here, so my next meal is going to be dinner, which is going to be this. Aside from that, I just brought like a granola bar for tomorrow morning before I head out. So in this kit we got a pan, non-stick, just in case I can't make a big fire to cook what I'm going to cook here. If I can't, then I'm going to have to use a stove and cook my meal on this. Now this is an OpSack plastic bag, which is airtight, and usually a lot of hikers will bring this because usually odor from food will not escape this bag. But in here For later tonight, before I go to sleep, I'm gonna cook some ramen. And hot soup is definitely important before going to sleep because you wanna have something to warm up your body before going to bed. And for the ramen, I'm gonna put tapatio. I did bring some instant coffee for Starbucks. I think I'm gonna have some right now, and I'm gonna have some tomorrow morning. Here's my pro bar. It's gonna be my breakfast. And the piece that I'm looking forward to the most tonight. Oh yes. Can anyone guess what's in here? The people in my live stream know exactly what's in here. This is a pound of ribeye, Angus beef ribeye. So this is gonna be tonight's dinner. Now, what I do want to do is I want to see if I can gather wood or something like that, make a fire, and cook this right on the coal. But if I can't find any, then I'm just gonna have to cook it in the pan. So, fingers crossed for that. Now in my live stream, I did ask you guys what beverage I should have with the steak. Now it was a tie basically between a whiskey and beer. After a coin toss, the ultimate conclusion is beer. Now we got this Fort George Vortex IPA, 16 ounces, 1 pint, 7.7% alcohol by volume. So I brought 2 cans of these and we'll enjoy these with the steak later. And that's about it. So right now let's make some coffee. And then after I get some caffeine in me, I'm gonna see if I can find some wood around here. It's still raining and it's raining pretty consistently, so I think we're gonna have a hard time finding wood. Guys, I also forgot to mention that I did bring my stove. This is the Optimus Crux Lite. Alright guys, so let me give you an updated tour. So over here, since this is a double-sized hammock, what I did was I folded it over like a burrito, I guess. And then I'm using it as basically a sitting chair. And here we go, we got water here. I brought a shovel also, by the way, and this is a lightweight aluminum shovel. This was like under 20 bucks, and you can find one of these at like a army surplus store. And that is just in case I need to dig out like maybe a little space so that I can have fire. So I'm gonna cook my coffee in here. I'm also gonna cook my ramen in here. Got my beer dug into the snow so that I can have it cooled down. That is where I buried my steak. Of course, we got our camp processing tools there. Got 1 log of wood, maybe a small fire, my bag of food I'm gonna finish tonight, and my bag right underneath the hammock. So that's about it, guys. So let's get this coffee going. In case you guys are wondering what I'm doing with the trash, I brought a trash bag, put any and all trash in here. This is probably one of the biggest pots I've used for coffee. Alright, I spilled some coffee. I clearly don't know how to use a hammock. I was still able to save some though, down in here. Jeez, what a waste. And that's another thing about me. I'm pretty clumsy at times. Okay, let's not do this position actually. Jeez, that was such a dumb move. Anyways, cheers. Woo! I don't know about you guys, but I love my coffee black. No sugar, no cream. I like the bitter flavor of it all. So let's go over how I'm planning to stay warm tonight. So as you can tell, my shelter system and my sleep system has very minimal insulation. The insulated sleeping pad and the wool blanket should do somewhat of an insulating job, but I'm relying mostly on my clothes for this trip. So my socks are wool socks, and I brought extra pair of dry wool socks because there's just something about wearing, because when I hiked into this area, I sweat a little bit. So when I sweat, the socks obviously a little bit damp. So even though wool can still insulate when wet, there's nothing like wearing good dry socks to bed. So I'm gonna wear that. And then I do have long johns or base layer on my bottom and on my top. And then as you can see, it's over here. And then on my pants, I do have like snowboarding pants that does have some insulating capabilities, and I'm hoping it should be enough for tonight. And then over here, my mid layer is going to be this wool blend shirt. And then I also did bring a insulation mid-layer jacket from Montbell, which I'm going to put on later. Now the reason why I brought a synthetic blend is because when you're active in cold weather, especially if you're going to camp overnight, you don't want to wear a down jacket. You don't want to wear a down mid-layer, because let's say if you're working around camp, or if you hike into camp and it gets wet, first it's going to lose its insulation capabilities, and it's just gonna stay damp. So you want to avoid down if possible. So down jacket is good if you're gonna be, maybe car camping or you're stationary somewhere, and the chances of you getting wet are very minimal. So if I were to go car camping somewhere and stay around the fire or whatnot, and it's not raining or snowing, then I might put on a down jacket. But in a place like this where I go backpacking in and hiking in, I would stay away from down. So I have that synthetic jacket mid-layer, and then I have this outer layer. It's a rain jacket by Montbell, and it does have Gore-Tex lining. So that has pretty much kept me really dry up on this hike, which I've been walking through rain. And this material dries out pretty quick. It's already dry right now. So that is what I'm relying on for tonight. And the other thing is if you do have, a synthetic insulation or anything synthetic, and they're kind of wet from sweat, keep it on. Eat something very warm, like hot soup. I'm gonna have hot ramen later before I go to bed, so it brings up your core temperature in your body, so that body heat will actually dry out synthetic fabric better while you're sleeping. Even in the military, I've heard they do the same thing, where they tell you if you get wet in camp, you cover yourself in synthetic sleeping bag and just eat something hot, have a hot meal, and it'll just dry out. And plus, because it's synthetic, it'll still have its insulation properties, so it'll still be able to insulate the body heat that it expels. So I can already feel the temperature dropping. I do have these wool gloves as well, fingerless, but I also did bring snow gloves as well that I'm going to put on later too if it gets pretty cold. It's raining pretty good. As you can see, there's still some chunks of snow that's melting off of the tree above, and it's falling onto my tarp. But I did take a look up. Always, before you set up a tarp with a hammock, make sure you look above, even a tent, if you're surrounded by trees, to make sure there are no widowmakers above you. Maybe any loose branches or limbs, or even big chunks of snow that can fall on you. And I checked earlier and there aren't any. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find a lot of wood, but I'm still going to look. And what I think I'm gonna have to do tonight, folks, is if I try to set up a fire outside of this tarp covering, it's just gonna, the constant rain is just gonna put out the fire. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to, on like a furthest corner of this tarp, I'm gonna use the shovel to dig into the snow and then make like a little fire ring. And I'll show you guys that later. Alright, let's go look for some wood. Alright guys, the quick recon. There's no dead wood, there's no dead standing wood or fallen wood. Everything's just too damp and drenched. So the only thing I got going for me right now is this piece of log that I brought. So I'm gonna process that. I'm gonna first dig like a little campfire hole right under the tarp here. Now, ideally what you should do is have a different tarp area set up so you can cook over there, but we gotta improvise when the situation calls for it. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dig out that hole, cook it right now, and then cover that hole back up with snow. And I'm running out of battery, so I don't know how much time I'm gonna have, so I'm just gonna cook it right now, and I'm hungry anyways. So get back. You can see right underneath that corner area, using that shovel, we dug up the snow till it hit the ground. So as you can see, there's about maybe a little less than a foot of snow here. So basically that wall of snow around the fire pit will act as a fire reflector. Basically the heat emanating from the wood will be bouncing back into that fire pit, so it'll be perfect. Unfortunately though, I only have one log, and I'm already ran through a battery on this camera, and I'm hungry, so I'm just gonna cook up the steak right now and enjoy this meal. So here's what we got, guys. Out of that one piece of log, we got all this firewood processed. So I'm hoping this should be enough for one piece of steak, right? What do you think? I hope it's enough. I don't want to have to resort to that pan in the stove. But as you can see, I did the batoning technique. I needed to find something to baton down the knife with, so I just looked around and I just sawed off a fat piece of wood over here. But it's all wet inside. I thought I could salvage those pieces of wood, but I just cut one up in the middle and I looked it up and it's still soaked. So I'm gonna be using this. So how I laid this out is I put two pieces at the bottom and I put these in a row just so that they would not make contact with the snow and get wet. So let's try to make this fire and see what we get. Alright, so what we're gonna do is like a log cabin fire, which we did like a tic-tac-toe grid. So I broke these pieces in half. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a couple of feather sticks. And put it right inside. It's not the nicest looking feather stick, but it'll do for now. And I got all these little shavings here. I'm just gonna put on top right there. We've got some Strike Anywhere matches. And then once we get good amount of coals, I'm gonna just throw the steak right on there. There it is, guys. Medium rare steak, the way I love it. Still smoky. Let's give it a bite. Ooh, now that is a good steak. And this is a good IPA. Here. Oh man. Wow. I'm so glad I was able to cook this on the fire. I'm using an SC6. It's a 6-inch blade knife. I'm using it for everything. For camp chores, wood processing, steak cutting. This is an awesome knife. This paracord, I put it so that I can put it around my wrist just so the knife doesn't fly out and if I'm chopping. But it's also useful if I need cordage. It's going to get dark in about an hour to hour and a half. I don't know, maybe I'll just clean my campsite around a little bit. There's definitely no more wood. I've used up all my firewood to cook the steak and just have a little campfire, but now it's all just coal. So I'll bury the fire spot back. So I'll smother the fire pit with snow. And that's it. Just gonna finish this steak, guys. Maybe should I just keep you on here? Katie and I, we did a live stream yesterday. There were a few people that came on. I think it was like, what, 10, 15, at one point like 20 people, which is great. I think sometimes it's great to have a small group of people together in something like that so that you don't lose track of the conversation. And it felt more intimate, you know? And it was great getting to talk to you guys in real time. It was a good experience. It was my first live stream, or Katie and I's first live stream. And because the experience was so good, we're planning to make it a regular thing. We'll see. Maybe like on Sundays, like Sunday late afternoon. So back to this challenge. So this is a budget gear challenge, right? So we got everything in my pack, and by that I mean excluding like the knife, the saw. So basically the hammock, sleeping pad, the wool blanket, the tarp, and what else? And the backpack even. All that combined was about under $200. So what I wanted to show through this challenge is that even if you have a more strict budget, you can still go out and enjoy this kind of camping environment. Now, it's not for everybody. You know, not everyone's going to like camping in the cold. But as I mentioned before, the advantages to this are it's peaceful. There's no crowds. As you can see on my hammock, there are no bug nets because there are no mosquitoes or bugs flying around. To be honest with you guys, I don't know what to expect tonight. Luckily, my pants and my jacket are pretty much dry for the most part, so I'm going to keep them on for additional, it's insulating. And I'm hoping the pad insulation and the blanket will be sufficient to keep retain the body heat. Previously, when I had my Hennessy hammock, I had an underquilt, and then I brought a sleeping bag that I used for my top, and that was sufficient. And I was able to hammock camp in snowy weather and very cold, freezing temperatures as well. So doing something like this is a first for me. Exposed, no sleeping bag, no underquilt, and just hoping that I don't freeze to death. Now, if worse comes to worse and I'm freezing my butt off and I can't take it, I'm gonna have to pack up and leave and hike back. It was about 2 miles back to the car. That's my last resort, but I'm hoping for the best. What I want to do is sleep in here, sleep overnight, have a relatively comfortable sleep, and then in the morning make some coffee, pack up, clean up camp, and hike back. So we'll see. It's weird. You know what? There were no widowmakers up above, but there must have been chunks of snow up on top of the trees, because once in a while I just get bashed with freaking balls of snow on top of this tarp. Alright guys, pretty much done with food. Gonna clean up the campsite. I'll get back to you guys in a bit. Alright guys, so it's getting pretty late, and by late I mean like 6:30, and it's getting dark. So I put on my second layer. So I got my beanie on, and I got my synthetic mid-layer jacket, and then I'm gonna put my rain jacket over like this, and this is how I'm gonna go to sleep. Now it's all dried up, so it's good, and then I'm gonna put my wool blanket over me. So I'm hoping for the best, guys. That's about it. I might have some noodles, some ramen. Unfortunately, because it's so dark and the battery on this slide is running out, I probably won't be able to film it, but I will try if I can. But if not, I just want to say goodnight. I'll see you guys in the morning unless something else develops. Hey, good morning guys. Well, that was an interesting night for sure. So the sleep wasn't too bad. I was actually pretty warm. The only parts that I've noticed that did kind of get a little cold were around the toes in the boots, and also my shoulders. It made contact with cold spots on the hammock because it was hanging over the thermarest accordion pad. But aside from that, it was pretty good. All the layers of clothing that I had a beanie, and then I had my mid-layer jacket hoodie over, and then I had my rain jacket hoodie over, and then I had gloves on. And yeah, it worked out really well. It did. So right now it's snowing outside. It was raining until about, I'd say 2-3 a.m. and then I did get up around 4 a.m. to check the weather temperature, and it was around 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And then at around 6 o'clock it was still about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think right now it's still about the same temperature. It started to get light outside, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pack up camp, and I'm gonna make way back to the car at the trailhead. I'll catch you guys soon.